Welcome back to Bobby and the Builders. In the first episode, we talked about how my business was not worth exactly what I thought it was going to be worth. And then in this episode, we're going to talk about some surprising things with regards to profit and how profit might not be the only thing that's important to future business buyers.
We see this constantly. A lot of sellers assume that just because their business is making money, people are going to be attracted to it. But the reality is that when buyers come to BizScout, profitability is not the only thing that they're looking for. And there are other aspects that define whether a buyer is interested or not in that business.
So today, we're going to break down why some profitable businesses struggle to attract future owners and why others fly off the shelf.
So, Bobby, last time you talked about your restaurant, your venture, and everything that you went through. This time we want to talk about businesses that are profitable, right? And I remember you told me one time the story about the gym that you go to and how the business wanted to sell, or the owner wanted to sell. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Set the context on the beliefs of that seller and the owner believing that, hey, I'm making money.
Yeah.
I should be able to sell it.
So when we say gym, I do MMA. So, I've trained jiu-jitsu for a long time, mostly through MMA. Now I do put on the gi, the pajamas, whatever people want to call it. I prefer no gi, but that's, everyone has their preference. This is an MMA gym, and it's a really good, profitable business. A lot of kids, a lot of youth, and you guys know how I feel about youth sports and how it's basically indestructible when it comes to the economy. This gym specifically had a very prominent owner, and the owner coached a lot of the classes. The owner was the main attraction. The owner was a top-level fighter even before the UFC became a real thing. One of the first American black belts, and in jiu-jitsu, just top-notch education, top-notch training. So he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, I'm thinking about selling." And we said, "All right, yeah, cool. Let's take a look." His biggest problem was not that he wasn't profitable. It's that he was the business. And if you have a single point of failure, if that owner, that multi-degree black belt removes himself from the business, what does that gym become? It becomes a gym like everybody else. It becomes any other gym that trains mixed martial arts. It becomes any other jiu-jitsu gym that's trying to get kids into the program. There's no specialization or differentiation. So as profitable as that business is, it's really, really tough for that owner to remove themselves and sell off to another business owner, because there's just not going to be the same draw from the single point person that is the most important factor in the success of that business. It's very similar to if you had like a great manager, right? If you had a great, fantastic manager and then the new ownership comes in and that manager does not want to work for the new ownership for whatever reason, or they've always been a partner with the owner, they felt good and they don't want to take the risk with the new owner. If you have a single point of failure like that, that's really scary to any future new buyer, regardless of the profitability.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And when we speak to a lot of owners that come through BizScout, some of the things that I hear is, hey, it took me 30 years to build this.
Yeah.
Right? And in the example of your master, like it was like, took me probably 30 years to get to black belt,
Yes.
or like 15 or something like that. Like, why can I not transfer this? So can you tell us a little bit about the conversations you had with him and some of the beliefs that he had, like him trying to back up his posture and why his business was valuable?
By the numbers, it was. And it is. It is a profitable business. It's sustained him for a very long time. This is what he's always done. Like, he's owned gyms, he's moved locations, he's done X, Y, Z. He's done everything there is to do in the world of mixed martial arts. When you ask people what the reason why they come to that gym is, it's always the same. I learn from the best. I train with the best. It's a great family community. It has the scheduling that I need because this is all he does. It's not a part-time. A lot of gyms have part-time trainers that come in. Like, the owner is the business. That's the biggest struggle with with the conversation that we had is because if I told him, hey, you could sell this business if you weren't the point person for X dollars. And then he turns around and says, well, then why can't I sell it for X dollars? It's a really tough conversation for us to have to say, like, you are the business. It's just you. And I know you have 3 other trainers. I know that you have guys that come in part-time and work with the kids a lot. But the substance, the core, is your multi-degree black belt, your history, your lineage, where you came from, how you got it. If you step out, that's going to be tough to sustain the business after that. That's a tough conversation to have.
That makes a ton of sense. And I want to take that example and put something similar but different.
Sure.
And then I want to get your perspective. There's the Gracie brand,
Yes.
right? Gracie are the founders of Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They build a brand out of it. And you see Gracie gyms all over the place, right? And I'm from Mexico. I have been in Gracie gyms, and then you see them here and everywhere. Mm-hmm. Do you see a difference in the setup of the business in the two? Would you say that the Gracie brand did something different that allows them to have a more valuable business, not profitable, but valuable business?
Yeah. So it's actually a great point. It's kind of where I was steering him towards, and I told him, frankly, I don't want to say I was steering him towards it. He came with to the same conclusion you did. Like, if the Gracies can do it, I can do it. Right? There's a level. Like, the Gracie family is known for founding the whole thing, but his immediate reaction after we had the conversation about the point person problem was, well, can I franchise? And look, that's a whole different world. Like, the answer is yes, you can, but there are different regulations. There's different structures to what a franchise looks like. You could just license the name and not be a franchise. There's different ways that you can do this. But the reason that the Gracies were successful is because they set up systems, and they set up processes, and they set up business plans, and they screen who the new owners are coming in. They don't just let Joe Schmo off the street come and take a Gracie brand. Like, you have to, 1, love the sport, 2, be a stand-up small business owner or future entrepreneur that they've screened out before. And 3, you really have to have some level of understanding about jiu-jitsu. Like, you have to know fighting. If you don't, the Gracie brand will immediately disqualify you. And we keep using their name because they are the most famous set of chains. But there are other chains of MMA and jiu-jitsu gyms that have done this successfully. The business owner that I was talking to, my former coach, said, I want to do one of those. And that's probably the path that he's going to go down right now. But it's a different brand. It's a different set of hurdles. That is not selling your business, right? That is a different level of ownership or licensing or wherever you want to push that. It's not selling. And he still has the single point problem if he really wanted to remove himself.
Yeah, because in reality, when you want to sell your business, you sell it for what it is today, not for what it can be tomorrow.
Correct.
And I think that is one of the possible misconceptions I see when I speak to owners or people selling their businesses, like, oh, but you could do this, you could do that. Yes, but there's a reason why you haven't done it today. If you were to do that and spend the next couple of years preparing, and now you have it franchised, people are consuming your franchise, it has a geographical footprint.
Yes.
Then you're selling that, right? You're not
Exactly.
selling just the gym that is depending on the black belt, right?
That's right. Yeah. You'd have a different, you could sell the different business model after you've established that business model.
Correct.
You couldn't do it with the single point person problem.
Some of the things that I see on the marketplace, because I have the opportunity to speak to both sides, buyers and sellers, right? And when you're selling your business, you have to think like a buyer.
Yes.
Right? And when you're buying a business, you have to think like the seller.
That's right.
Right? Because you got to understand the other side.
Right.
And something that a lot of the times I see sellers not understanding is you got to understand who you're targeting to.
Right.
And have the concept of transferability, right? What that means is I want to sell to someone that will operate the business.
Yes.
Okay, you're going to focus to a specific group that's going to have or share your similar expertise so that they can keep it.
That's right.
But that's going to limit the audience that you're gonna go towards,
Right.
right? And then if you go beyond that, you're like, no, I want to cater the business to someone that can be hands off or hands on because my business is prepared for it,
Right.
right? Like I just had a business and they will tell me, hey, a friend of mine bought it, and the reason why he bought it was because the business was founded, or not founded. It was set up through EOS,
Yep.
the methodology, entrepreneurial operating system, which allows you to create everything that you're saying, like all of the way you're gonna do your day to day, in order for you to not necessarily have an owner, right? Like, or have less time, right? Can you tell us a little bit of how you're seeing in this case different concepts and try to translate from a specific case to like general use case, like general concepts that people can take on that they can think about when they're thinking of selling their business?
Yeah, you can really think about this in two different ways. The best way for you to set your business up for success for whomever might come in, man, my English is bad. Worse, yours is English as a second language. I don't even know whomever. The way to set up your business for the most likelihood of success from anyone taking it over is to write everything down. And that doesn't matter whether you're in the restaurant industry and you're selling to a guy who's always a W-2 employee who's always dreamed of owning a restaurant. It doesn't matter if you're a manufacturing plant and you're selling to a consultant who's worked in manufacturing on the side and knows a little bit about the space. If you have documented processes, you are more likely to sell to more people. If you can do that, if you really can nail the SOPs, you're going to have a more broad audience. The second thing, if you have a very niche industry, MMA gyms, right? We'll go back to that example real quick. You need to have a succession plan for your management and leadership that will take over those things. So even if I think that this is the best business in the world. It's recurring revenue, it's monthly payments, there's kids, so it's very sticky. Parents don't shop gyms, they find a gym, they stick to it. All of the things that you would love. If I wanted to own that business, I would need to have some other black belt lined up to come step in to take care of this. Excuse me. So what you really need to do is find the person who has the expertise that can come in and establish a continuation of the previous ownership. So write it all down, statements, SOPs, and management that actually does have the expertise. And if you can do those things, you'll have a broad appeal. Let me reframe that one more way, actually. It doesn't have to be on the buyer to have that line of succession. If you're the seller, remember you said think about it as if you're from the other side. If I'm a seller, if I'm the gym owner, and I can say, look, I have a black belt that I've trained that wants to take over here, but they're not a business owner. They're a great trainer. They've got a ton of MMA experience. They've got a black belt. They can teach kids. They've been doing this for 5 years. They're not an owner. They're not a business owner. You can say, I've already got this succession line planned out for you. Here you go. So if you can assuage some of those fears, you can make a much more broad audience for your selling pool.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And again, I'm always comparing to my day-to-day and what I hear from people. And I mean, if I was a business owner today selling my business, the first thing that I would try to convey as a message are the buyer's fears.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how can I make sure that I give them an answer on predictability and transferability?
Yep.
And something that comes to mind is it's like building a puzzle.
Yeah.
Right? Like everyone has tried one or has done it, whether they complete it or not. But after you finish it, what happens? It stays in your dinner table for 3 months. Why? Because you don't know what to do with it.
No, it stays on your dinner table for 3 months because your kids will get mad if you take it off the dinner table. Like, I worked so hard on this, and then now what do I do with it? But
exactly. Yeah. The thing is, like, how do I transfer it from here to there?
Yeah.
Without it coming to pieces and me having to start again.
That's right.
Right? And it's the same with the business, right? Like, there's a prepping process.
All the pieces are there, no matter what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, are they there consistently so that if I transfer it in a certain way, it's going to stay like that? And I'm going to see the full picture. Or is it going to come breaking into pieces, right? And we've heard stories about, oh, I just bought a business and all the employees quit.
Yeah.
Why? Because, I don't know, they were all cousins of the owner and it was like family and they're like, I'm out of here. Or because they were so used to a particular thing about that the owner did.
Right.
Do you have a couple of examples that, like, in your experience that you've seen and compare of what you would suggest to the seller of like, hey, if you had come in, either did this or from the get-go, just like speak the buyer's language and give them assurance of, hey, I assure you that you paying this price is going to be a good opportunity because of X, Y, and C.
Yeah. So we've been doing this for a while now, and there's a spectrum of outcomes once you purchase the business. And to be the most successful, Cody says this a lot, everything at some point becomes a people problem. And businesses, when you acquire a business, entrepreneurship through acquisition, a cash flowing business, maintaining that consistency in the employment is incredibly important, at least for some period of time. So the most successful people that we've seen go from evaluation through the due diligence process, inquiring through the due diligence process, through the actual acquisition, have been so focused on keeping the employees that are on board happy, at least for a time being. If there are key employees, you need to know who they are, and you need to really treat them right. So in this transition period, maybe there's a lockup period where you say, hey, Joe Smith is the most important person to this business. We know that he's important. We're going to give Joe Smith a big bonus. And you know what? You could wrap it in your SBA loan. You can wrap that into your SBA loan as part of your cost of acquisition. So you can pay that person to stay on for a full year and tie them into that contract so that they'll stay. They'll stay. And if they don't, you get the money back. And you'll figure that out. Or you could tie it into a payout for the seller. Hey, if these employees don't stay, the seller payout goes down. The seller financing goes away, whatever it might be. So there are different ways that you can structure the acquisition to tie the key employees to the business, but also make them happy. And over the course of the SBA loan, you're not going to notice an extra bonus payment to top key employees. Maybe I've even seen a couple of them where they actually cut the employees in. Employees had no equity stake. And then through this process, you've met them, you've talked to them, you've established a relationship with them. You know that they're going to be good, and you want them to continue the success of that business. It makes perfect sense. Give them some equity. Let them participate. If they give them 1, 2, 5, 10%, if they grow the business 20, 30, 40, 50% over the next 3 years, that's a better outcome for everybody.
That really resonates with me. And as you were speaking, I was just thinking about the different parts of the process.
When I was talking, you were thinking about something else. This is very common. But go ahead.
That's what I always do, right?
Yeah.
No, it just got me thinking into different aspects of that transferability. Because one thing is you have it or you don't.
Yeah.
Right? And the other thing is, are you communicating it or not, and when, right? And I could see two things happening for a business owner, right? Mm-hmm. One thing is you're very transferable, but you don't communicate that well. You don't get many inquiries. And the ones that you get, given that you don't have much demand, they fight the price, right?
Yeah.
And then it comes through due diligence that you're a great business and they're going to want you, but you're not going to have much to negotiate with.
Right.
And then
you haven't started a bidding war with people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have the other aspect, right? You're not that transferable, but you're great at communicating.
Like we started with, where the profitability is super high. You wrote a great description, but you're not really that transferable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it's going to come through into the due diligence, right? And most probably a lot of things are going to fall through because of that.
Yeah.
Do you have like recommendations on both cases? On if I was a seller today, right, and I came to you for advice, what would you tell me? Like, is there like certain aspects that I should check? Not only am I that like, hey, you got to check that the business dependency and profitability and the other aspects that we talked through, but throughout the selling process of the business, how to keep that messaging and then due diligence, like
Yep.
how to communicate that effectively so you see the value come through.
Yeah. Most people are pretty familiar with you browsing Zillow and you see the description that's written, right? And 50 to 80% of them are absolutely terrible. And it all caps, just needs a little tender love and care, right? This 5 bedrooms on a quiet cul-de-sac, but it backs up to a freeway. Like the description actually matters. And a good business broker knows how to write that description. There's a lot of bad real estate agents. There are some bad business brokers, but you go out of business pretty quick if you're a bad business broker here. The good business brokers and good marketplaces for that matter will help you write a really good description to attract more people to your business just up front. So that's number one. Like marketing matters. Marketing your business, advertising your business matters. Where you get posted matters. You need traffic. So if a business broker says, "Oh, I'm going to keep this off, we'll keep this pocket and we'll shop it." Doesn't happen a lot, but some business brokers are like, "I think I've already got a buyer for this." Well, you're limiting your pool for how many people. So you want a broad and wide audience for this initial listing. So we got the description, we've got the broad audience messaging, and then when you get into due diligence, you need to actually live up to what you say. You can't have that big fancy description and then have not enough substance behind it with the transferability. If you're not transferable, you need to, I don't say you don't need to. Nobody needs to do anything, but the best thing for you to do if you're the gym owner, now we're going back to the gym again, but is say that you already have a succession plan in the description. There's already somebody that's going to come in and operate this business. We had a great business come get listed on BizScout a while ago, which was a makeup brand that wanted to sell. That makeup brand owner's basically absentee. It's tough for us to even get a hold of him. Last time we called him, he says, "I'm in the boat in the Mediterranean. You got to work on my hours to get a hold of me." So it's a great brand. Go check it out. But if you look at the description that's written for that business, it says absentee owner. It says, and that's not a bad thing. Like people look at that and they say, "Oh, absentee owner, like, is it really true? Is this person?" No, I can tell you he's on a boat in the Mediterranean. Like he's actually not there. He has great management in place. But it says like it's listed as a Florida company because that's where he was originally headquartered and that's where the warehouse is. But that doesn't mean that's where all the shipments need to go. You could move it, write it in the description. So you appeal to a broader audience. And then when you get into due diligence, have a plan for how you would move this stuff. Say like, look, this is how much it would cost. I will cover the shipping cost. Figure out a way to negotiate to get this business sold and in the hands of the new owner in a way that makes sense for everyone. So yeah, you want to close down your Florida warehouse. You want to keep the real estate. The new buyers in Ohio. Okay, let's work on a plan of how that would already work and how that would look ahead of time.
So some of the takeaways that I'm getting from this is like, one, do your assessment of how transferable your business is. And then if you're thinking about seriously selling your business, is think about how are you gonna communicate that?
That's right.
And how are you gonna transfer like throughout the interaction that value and those responses, and how you're gonna basically ease up all the nerves that a buyer might have, right? Like especially if this is main street.
Yeah, you're not going to solve everything up front because you don't know what the other buyer is coming from. But there are some pretty common ones that you could anticipate and get ahead of. So if you are going to claim that your business is location independent, like you can go anywhere with it, have a plan for how that actually happens. If it's an e-commerce brand, yeah, that's fine. But is there inventory that you have to move around? Then you need to figure out a plan for how you're going to move that inventory to wherever else. Like if you don't have any plans like that, it's going to drag out in due diligence. It's going to drag out in any investigation into the core of the business and whether this new person can actually take over and be successful. If there are easily identifiable things that you can take over, or that you can knock out ahead of time, go knock them out. One thing that really surprised me was that profitability actually wasn't the most important thing. It is absolutely one of the top things, but it's not the only thing that determines whether or not this business will sell. It's important to know that there are things that you can get ahead of as a seller. Transferability, management continuation, employment agreements. There are things that you can knock out ahead of time and anticipate that a buyer is going to ask you about. If you can get ahead of those things, you're going to be much more likely to sell in a much better timeline. If you don't, you can expect a normal timeline. And no one wants to drag out due diligence for 3 to 6 to 9 months. The idea is that if you work with a great business broker or you work with a strong marketplace like BizScout, we can help you move through those things and identify those really early opportunities for success.
Exactly. Buyers are looking for risk assessment, stability, and basically they want to know, if I were to acquire this, can I have the same or better results than the current business owner? And that's what they're going to be assessing for.
If you're building a business today, you need to start thinking about exiting now. And if you want to understand what the market actually thinks about your business, that's exactly why we built BizScout. New episodes of Bobby and the Builders will be available every single week. We're going to break down real businesses, real owners, and real stories week to week. If you're building with an exit in mind, follow Bobby and the Builders. We'll see you next week.